Hello, everybody. Andy Jacob here with the DotCom Magazine Entrepreneur Spotlight Series. I have a great show today. You know, we talk about disruption all the time, and we bring founders on who are doing amazing things, as you know from watching the show. But when Mr. John McMillan came across our desk and we saw what he and his team are doing at Shockwave Motors, we picked up the phone. We had to get him on the show. I mean, their team is trying to disrupt the personal transportation industry. And wait till you see some of the cars they put together. I'm not even sure if we call them cars. I'm going to leave it up to John to tell us what it is. But you know from watching the show, I love vehicles. I love cars. I love motorcycles. I love how we get from point A to B. And what John has done with his team is they've made this disruption very fun. Very interesting. I mean, very exciting. Wait till you see the colors of the cars and everything else they've got going. John, welcome to the DotCom Magazine Entrepreneur Spotlight Series today.
Thank you, Andy. It's a pleasure to be here.
It's great to have you. We've spoken prior to the interview. We're going to put up some of the vehicles that you have on the screen. I don't even know if we call them cars. They're super cool. I mean, anybody that's going to see it is going to want one. Before we get started, though, let's pull back the lens to 30,000 feet. Tell us about Shockwave Motors, and then we go.
Okay. Well, Shockwave Motors, we've been in business, as you say, building these vehicles for several years now. I've had a lifelong passion for electric vehicles. In fact, one of my earliest memories is of my dad and I sitting on the kitchen floor. We were cleaning up this old car starter motor, and his idea was to put it on my little red pedal tractor. Well, as you can guess, that was a long time ago, and it stuck in my head. I did an electric go-kart when I was in grade school. Physics project was a conversion for, in high school, mind you, was for a electric vehicle conversion. That was like in the 70s, early 70s. Worked on them, built them, converted them for a number of years, and finally decided I wanted to build one to be as efficient as I possibly could. So that meant, for example, 3 wheels. 3 wheels is less rolling resistance at slow speeds. Also means better aerodynamics for better performance at high speeds. So that led us directly to the design layout of the Defiant EV3 Roadster. And it is a blast to drive. It is so much fun. You take the hard top off and cruise down the highway.
Wow. Now you have a vehicle behind you.
Yes.
And you look at the vehicle, I'm looking at it, and I've seen it before, and I'm saying to myself, that would be so fun to drive. I mean, is that the Defiant, or what vehicle is that behind you right there?
This one is the Defiant EV3 Electric Roadster. And we call it the Defiant because we are defiant.
Wow. I love it. 3 people get in the vehicle. Is that right?
That's correct. We have 1 seat in the front, the driver, and room for 2 in the back seat.
Wow. And it looks like it has an ultra low center of gravity. Does that give it sort of a superior stability on the product?
It does indeed. We have the center of gravity located right in front of the rear wheels and actually under the rear seat. So it's on the same level as the axle back there. It's solid as a rock. We've actually had people come out and try to destabilize it because it is a front single wheel in the front. And we've had people try to destabilize it on curvy East Tennessee roads in the rain even. And they said, there's no trouble. This thing's never going to tip.
Wow. I can't even imagine the kind of looks and the kind of honks and the kind of thumbs up and the yahoos and woohoos you get riding that vehicle down the road. Am I right?
Oh, you're 100% right. I can't even drive it to Walmart without having to spend an hour talking to people in the parking lot. I love it.
Wow. People are going to go crazy over this. Now, let's talk about the range because, you know, you look at a vehicle like this, you know, what's the range? Are you talking 100 miles? What's the range? Because that's all you need because you're going to have so much fun. You're going to want to take it home and probably take a rest after driving it around.
For sure. And we've got about 100-mile range per charge. And we've designed it for commuters. So the way it works is you could drive it up to about 100 miles, plug into any standard 120-volt outlet anywhere for a full recharge in about 8 or 9 hours and drive it another 100 miles back home. So you actually have up to, if necessary, a 200-mile-per-day charge with just range with up to with level 1 charging stations. No special level 2s or anything.
Wow. I want to talk about your team in a little bit, but
Okay.
you just mentioned something that's amazing. I mean, people are probably like rewinding what you just said. You don't need a special plug for this
You do
vehicle.
not.
Let's talk
You do
about that.
not.
That's crazy.
Yeah. As I said, we designed it for efficiency. And so we're about 2 to 3 times more efficient than a Nissan Leaf, for example. So because we're more efficient, we don't take as much power drain to drive it. So we can go a lot further on what, we can go a lot further than typical vehicles with the smaller battery pack is what it boils down to. So it's
Now
small, efficient, and fun.
Wow. And that vehicle behind you, if I'm not mistaken, you can take that top off. Is that right?
Yes, that is correct. This is a removable hardtop, latches in place. 2 people on either side of it, lift it up, carry it away.
Amazing. And of course, when we think about the sign that says be part of an electric future, I love that.
Mm-hmm.
One thing that's going to come to mind, John, is safety. And
Right.
let's talk about the safety, because I know you've done some testing. I know that you're very proud of the way in which you've approached safety with the vehicle,
Mm-hmm.
but let's talk about that a little bit.
Okay. Safety is our number one concern. We want people to get, to work and home again as safely as possible. So to that end, we've had some design features included. For example, it is a front wheel design, triangular shaped vehicle. And what that means right off the bat is you're already 2/3 less likely to have a true head on collision than in a conventional car, because conventional car is 6 feet wide. This is more like 2.5 feet wide. So if you were to hit something, you would tend to glance off left or right. And we have a tubular steel reinforced chassis system that helps protect the drivers. We also have a roll bar like protection system. So even with the hardtop removed, you've got a roll bar. You've got seat belts, shoulder harnesses, front and rear crumple zones.
Wow. You thought of it all. Now, I'm trying to think to myself, because I'm looking at the vehicle. Everyone watching the show, they're going to say, what is this? Is this a motorcycle? Is this a car? Is this a commuter? What are we calling this? Do you need a special license to drive it? What's the story here?
The beauty of it is classified as a motorcycle. Anything less than 4 wheels is a motorcycle. And more specifically, the government came out and said, okay, if you have seat belts, shoulder harnesses, roll bar protection system, you have a steering wheel, you have seats, and you don't straddle like a motorcycle, then it becomes what's called an autocycle. So it's a special case of motorcycle. And something like 44 states have said you don't need a motorcycle license, though, because it's more like a car. You don't need a helmet because it's protection. And a regular driver's license is all you need.
Wow, I love it. The Defiant EV3 electric roadster. Now, everybody's going to be watching the show. They're saying, can I buy one? I mean, where are we in the evolution as the entrepreneur, the founder, the CEO, and your team? Are they available for mass production? How can we buy one? Or when does that time start to happen?
Great question. And we are pre-production. This is our 3rd prototype. It is a minimum viable product, meaning that we could go to production with this when we're ready to. And what it's going to take to get ready to is some additional capital, as you can well imagine. And I will also let you know that right now, in the next few weeks, we will be starting an equity crowdfunding campaign so that the average person can join us and literally be part of electric future by owning shares of stock in the company.
Wow.
And we hope to be able to be in production later this year, be limited production, but that's our plan.
Yeah, and of course, we'll bring you back on the show when that gets underway so we can talk about that, because I know it's going to be awesome. Now, let's talk about your team. How important has your team been to putting these prototypes out?
Oh, absolutely. We are a team. We've been together for a number of years. We some of us worked together on other projects even before we started this one. And we are absolutely committed. And I tell people we are committed, or somebody should commit us, one of the two. But we are totally committed.
That's great. Well, let's talk about it, because you've built 3 of them. You're about to do an equity crowdfunding raise on the platform.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to have you back on the show when that starts so we can disclose it when it's ready to roll, because I know you're very, very smart and strategic with the vehicle, with sort of informing the public about what's happening, even to the point that we want to hold back the equity crowdfunding opportunity until the time is right. You're very, very strategic in your entrepreneur career throughout the many years that you've been an entrepreneur and all the successes that you've had. But let's talk about it. Where is this vehicle located? I mean, do you keep it in a garage? Do you have it, in a location? Who's allowed to drive it? Because I want to fly to Tennessee and drive it if I can.
Well, we'll see about making that happen for sure. It's in basically a garage right now. We to help keep costs low, we haven't tried to rent a facility or buy a facility or things like that. So it's very low key startup. But that lean startup approach we're doing means we're going to be able to accomplish a lot more with even a smaller amount of money than a lot of companies. We've seen other companies try to do things and spend millions and millions and millions of dollars. And I think I've built more prototypes than they have.
That's
so
incredible.
We're just,
lean startup for the people watching the show. I mean, you don't need a big fancy office. You don't need the glass enclosed, office space to start with. You put out your minimal viable product. And what I love about what you've done and the entire team over there, I mean, it's a remarkable Shockwave Motors team. I mean, the roster looks like a who's who of people that, know how to get things to put together and take them to the finish line. Tell me about the first time you took the car out. The first drive, if you can take me into what happened. You were driving down the road, what did it feel like? What was going through your mind? What was the response?
One of the very first ones, you were talking about people taking pictures and everything, and that's for sure. I took it for a drive here in, of course, East Tennessee, and we were on a 4-lane highway, and I was doing about 45 or 50. This is, country road, not an interstate, about 45 or 50. And this vehicle pulls up, it was a pickup truck, pulls up next to me, starts waving and everything and carrying on. And then somebody actually literally climbs out the window, gets halfway out the window, taking video of us as we're driving down the highway. And it's just the way it is. People love what we're doing. They stop us. They follow us. We tow it sometimes. To across country. Literally, we've been in California to New York and Florida, and we'll take we'll take an exit for to fill up for gas for our truck and so forth. And people will follow us to the gas station and want pictures of it. We've given demonstrations and discussions at gas stations, rest areas, you name it. We've had discussions there.
Wow, I love it. And you did mention the speed, so I didn't know if that was something we wanted to talk about, but what do you envision being like the top speed on the Shockwave motor phenomenon?
Well, with this one, the top speed is about 70 miles an hour.
Wow.
Which, again, we designed it for daily commuting. So if you have to jump on the interstate, go down an exit or two, you've got the capability of doing that. If you're driving it just in town, you've got the capability of doing that too. We've seen some vehicles that are limited to like 25 miles an hour on city streets, and that's kind of rough. I couldn't drive downtown Morristown if my vehicle speed was only 25 miles an hour.
So. Yeah, so interesting. What's the vision? I mean, here we are. You've got a beautiful product. The minimal viable product is out. Do we build an assembly line? Do we build them by hand? Some combination thereof. What's the big vision for the Defiant EV3 and the rest of the line that you're going to be putting out?
It's designed for modular construction. Okay, so we sourced a lot of components from other companies. For example, motor, controller, battery charger, battery management system, those can come from different sources. And then we bring them together on the assembly line where we build the chassis. The fiberglass body is basically one large piece with the doors and so forth and top and so forth. But it's one piece. It's so light, by the way, 2 people can pick that body up without the doors and hold it. So it's very easy. So we don't need a lot of robotics. It's going to start out low volume. And, a few hundred a year, then a few thousand. But the beauty of it is, at most, there's about 10 hours of labor in the assembly of the vehicle. We've tracked the time with Hexit, and if we had everything there and could put it together, 10 hours of labor. So 2 people working together could literally easily build, two a day, literally.
Wow.
So we can expand that way very easily. In fact, one of the things that we'd like to think about it, this has the potential of being built in smaller volumes in different locations of the country, even so that you get people who are in an area of Southern California or New Mexico or whatever, and you have an area you want to invest in and build. We can build and sell right there in the local markets if we wanted to.
That's interesting. Probably could be done internationally as well. I mean,
of course, yes.
Yeah,
we already have some people talking to us about potentially in the Caribbean and even Cuba.
Wow. Let me ask a little geeky question for you, because I'm looking at it. I'm saying to myself, how does someone like you, an innovator, a zeitgeist, how do you take this vehicle, the Defiant EV3 and the rest of the cars or vehicles, the roadsters that you're going to produce, the car motorcycle mixture, I guess, and how does the insurance company start looking at this and decide how they're going to start insuring this? Does it just get insured like a regular motorcycle?
It does. It's a motorcycle. Wow. That's what it boils down to. It's a motorcycle.
Wow, that's incredible. Let's talk about the battery.
Okay.
Because everybody's talking about batteries.
Yes.
The big players that are, trying to figure out the battery situation for their vehicles. Right. How do we handle the batteries for your line of vehicles over at Shockwave?
What we have used, and again, these are even off-the-shelf batteries as far as that goes. We use lithium iron phosphate batteries. And what you have to keep in mind is there's a range of chemistries on the lithium ion batteries. On the one side, you've got those really super high density, smaller cells where they'll have 8,000 small cells welded together and all that, and they store a lot of energy, but sometimes they have problems, as is well known. All right, on the other end of the spectrum, still lithium batteries, you have the lithium iron phosphate chemistry. This is an extremely stable battery. It doesn't have quite the energy density as the other cells do, but what that means is it's safer. These batteries, I've seen videos of steel spikes being driven through them, and they don't explode, they don't burst into flames, they don't do anything. So they're very stable chemistry.
Wow, I love it.
That's what we're using for that.
That's cool, John.
And because the vehicle is lightweight, energy efficient, it doesn't need to have super high energy density batteries.
Yeah, makes sense.
For the commuter, yeah.
Let's talk about what I'm going to call the chassis, right?
Okay.
Was that handmade to start with? How did we build that?
Yeah, it's handmade. It's tubular steel construction. And in fact, I'll introduce another vehicle called the Draco Sports Trike that we're working on. We've got some pictures we just put on the website last week of it. First time we showed it to the public at all. And that vehicle looks a lot like a sandrail dune buggy. It has two wheels in the front, one wheel in the back, no body on it at all. And we just, like I said, posted pictures literally a few days ago of that one. And
I love it.
It's without a body, people say, we like to look like that. It's a sandrail buggy. And they like the look. It has a rear hub motor in it for power. And it also has the same size battery pack. We made it the same dimensions as for the Roadster, so we can easily put in either vehicle the battery pack. And that one, because it's extremely lightweight, and of course we anticipate being able to certify it as an auto cycle as well for the same reasons: seats, shoulder harnesses, tubular steel construction, all that. We hope to be able to get that going in the very near future and have it on the road. It has an anticipated top speed of 90 miles an hour.
That's incredible. Yeah. That's incredible. It almost sounds to me like you have a little bit too much of a passion to make things fun for your clients. Is that the idea?
Yeah. I've seen a lot of electric vehicles, and some of them are sports cars and do look cool and everything. But, a lot of them are these little square, little shoebox things. And let's have some fun. Let's make the drive to work enjoyable. Put a smile on your face.
I love it. And of course, on that vehicle, I'm looking behind you. You've got the American flag blazing on the side of the car. I love that. So it looks like the American Eagle with a flag.
American Eagle with flag.
Mm-hmm. Is that part of the idea, John, where these chassis and the vehicles are going to have a lot of fun, dynamic sort of emblems and paint jobs? What's that all about?
We can do that, but we're not going to make people have an emblem on if they don't want to. But it's going to be an option.
Wow, that's cool. And you'll give them different options of the emblems that you can have.
Mm-hmm. And of course, the American Eagle with a flag, that's part of that defiant attitude we have.
I love it. I love it. And the wheels. I mean, I'm looking at the wheels. Tell us about the wheels on this vehicle.
Well, the wheels themselves are standard vehicle wheels. I mean, they're just exactly what you'd expect. It has a fixed gear ratio rear end in it, that single speed. And the front, of course, is a front wheel design, so it has some unique applications of how it's put together. But the tire itself and the wheel and the rim are all standard.
Wow. And what about when we talk about it's a motorcycle, but it has a steering wheel?
It does, has a steering wheel.
And it has a foot brake and an accelerator pedal, correct?
That is correct. Mm-hmm. And
so
it has. I will also mention it has built-in regenerative braking. So when you take your foot off the accelerator, you're rolling to a stop sign, or you're coasting down a hill, you're putting power back into the batteries.
That's great. That's great. And this is an automatic, correct?
Well, yeah, technically. I mean, it only has one speed as far as that goes. You flip the switch to go into forward, you flip the switch to go in reverse. So, yeah, it's an automatic.
That's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
When we think about it, and we think about what you've done, and we think about the way in which electric vehicles are becoming part of the future, and your electric vehicle may be the future, how important is it for you and your team to also know that you're maybe helping the environment a little bit? Is that something that comes into your mind during the process?
For me, most definitely. I'm very passionate about the environment. When I got out, I spent 8 years in the military. When I got out of the Air Force, came back to East Tennessee, and I built a passive solar earth sheltered home. And for more than 20 years, lived off the grid, generating my own electricity off a creek here in the area. So, yeah, I'm very passionate about the environment, and to realize, what the pollution from typical vehicles do. We travel. Efficiency-wise, people talk about, well, you're burning electricity, fossil fuels to make electricity and all that. Well, yeah, that's true, in many cases. But one thing to keep in mind is this vehicle goes 50 miles on the amount of electricity needed to make 1 gallon of gasoline.
Wow. That's incredible.
Yeah.
That's strong. I mean, you don't hear that very often. And you don't need a special plug. You plug it right into the wall, right?
Any 120 volt outlet.
That's amazing. Okay, now before I let you go, I want to talk about your military background as it relates to entrepreneurship. We love the military. We support the veterans. We support veteran-owned businesses. We love it. And people that I speak with, they love to hire vets because they've been through it. They understand a chain of command. They understand how to get things done. They understand how to put a plan together and execute the plan. In your life, in your entrepreneurial journey, how important was your military experience in bringing what you learned from the military sort of to your entrepreneurial approach?
Spent 8 years on active duty with the Air Force, and some of the keys that I bring from that is commitment. I mean, I joked a little bit about commitment and all that, but you truly have to be commitment. As an entrepreneur, you have to be committed to doing things. You have to believe in what you're doing and focus on it, and not get sidetracked. And that focus and commitment and so forth, those are things that I brought from the military to my entrepreneurial life as well.
Wow. Powerful. Really powerful. Let's talk about the future. Okay. And then we're going to get back to the entrepreneurial community. I know we've only cut out a certain amount of time today. When we think about the future and we think about where it's all going, you think about the future. I mean, here you are part of this electric future that we're going to call it. Are you scared about the future, or are you excited and hopeful about what's going to happen in the future?
I'm excited and hopeful. I mean, I can make a change. I can do little things in my vehicles and make that path and create a path that myself and others can follow. And I don't want to be worried about things I have no control over. I don't want to fear I don't want to fear the unknown. I want to make the future.
Yeah, that's good stuff. And of course, for the entrepreneurs watching the show, we're all trying to make the future, and we're trying to make it right, and we're trying to move forward with gratitude and faith and trust and be humble about what we do. So before I let you go, I want to talk about entrepreneurship, because we have entrepreneurs watching the show. Maybe they're putting out their MVP, their minimal viable product. Maybe they're in a startup mode. Maybe they're freezing in the frame. Maybe they're freaking out a little bit. Maybe they're, don't know where to turn. They don't have a mentor. Maybe they're having some problems or confusion. So maybe you could share, John, based on your wealth of experience for the younger entrepreneurs watching the show, about what they can do to get through a tough time, what they can do to get through a wall, what they can do to keep on pushing when times get tough.
First of all, believe in yourself, believe in what you're doing. And the idea of making mistakes, well, I don't really call them mistakes. They're learning experiences. You may change, you may pivot directions in your business or whatever. And a philosophy that I have as well, when it comes to goal setting, which I'm a very firm believer in, people say set realistic goals. Well, I go along with that. You got to have realistic goals. But then there's another little aspect of that whole thing. I'd rather aim for the stars and hit the moon than aim for the moon and hit the dirt. Okay?
Yeah.
So you got to set big goals. And you got to stretch yourself.
Yeah. Go for it, right?
Go for it. That's right. Go for it.
I mean, make the biggest dream you can. And hey, if you fall short, you're still living the dream, right?
That's right.
I love it. Right. You're living the dream every day. You're driving on the street in the Defiant EV3 electric roadster. I mean, it's super cool. I can't wait to see what happens. I can't wait to see these everywhere. I can't wait to get behind the wheel on one of them and maybe even try out that new, I think you called it a dune buggy.
The Draco. Yes, the Draco Sports Trike.
Yeah, I love that. So, and just the names themselves make me think that this is just going to be like an incredible success for you. And I'm so excited to be in early to interview you, John. I know you've been working on Shockwave Motors with your team for a long time, and here you are right at the cusp of making it a reality. So I want to thank you so much for coming on the .com Magazine Entrepreneur Spotlight Series today.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure talking with you, and look forward to talking with you again soon.